Ares appears to have been an object of aversion to all the gods of Olympus, Aphrodite alone excepted. As the son of Hera, he had inherited from his mother the strongest feelings of independence and contradiction, and as he took delight in upsetting that peaceful course of state life which was pre-eminently the care of Zeus to establish, he was naturally disliked and even hated by him. When wounded by Diomedes, as above related, he complains to his father, but receives no sympathy from the otherwise kindly and beneficent ruler of Olympus, who thus angrily addresses him: "Do not trouble me with thy complaints, thou who art of all the gods of Olympus most hateful to me, for thou delightest in naught save war and strife. The very spirit of thy mother lives in thee, and wert thou not my own son, long ago wouldst thou have lain deeper down in the bowels of the earth than the son of Uranus." Ares, upon one occasion, incurred the anger of Poseidon by slaying his son Halirrhothios, who had insulted Alcippe, the daughter of the war god. For this deed Poseidon summoned Ares to appear before the tribunal of the Olympic gods, which was held upon a hill in Athens. Ares was acquitted, and this event is supposed to have given rise to the name Areopagus, or Hill of Ares, which afterwards became so famous as a court of justice. In the Gigantomachia, Ares was defeated by the Aloi, the two giant sons of Poseidon, who put him in chains and kept him in prison for 13 months. Ares is represented as a man of youthful appearance. His tall muscular form combines great strength with wonderful agility. In his right hand he bears a sword or a mighty lance, while on the left arm he carries his round shield. His demoniacal surroundings are terror and fear. Enyo, the goddess of the war cry, Chaeodamus, the demon of the noise battles, and Eris, contention, his twin sister and companion, who always precedes his chariot when he rushes to the fight, the latter being evidently a smile of the poets to express the fact that war follows contention. Eris is represented as a woman of florid complexion, with dishevelled hair, and her whole appearance angry and menacing. In one hand she brandishes a poniard and a hissing adder, whilst in the other she carries a burning torch. Her dress is torn and disorderly, and her hair entwined with venomous snakes. This divinity was never invoked by mortals, except when they desired her assistance for the accomplishment of evil purposes. Mars. The Roman divinity most closely resembling the Greek Ares, and identified with him, was called Mars, Marmurs, and Mars-spitter or Father Mars. The earliest Italian tribes, who were mostly engaged in the pursuit of husbandry, regarded this deity more especially as the god of spring, who vanquished the powers of winter and encouraged the peaceful arts of agriculture. But with the Romans, who were an essentially warlike nation, Mars gradually lost his peaceful character, and, as god of war, attains after Jupiter the highest position among the Olympic gods. The Romans looked upon him as their special protector, and declared him to have been the father of Romulus and Remus, the founders of their city. But although he was especially worshipped in Rome as god of war, he still continued to preside over agriculture, and was also the protecting deity who watched over the welfare of the state. As the god who strode with warlike step to the battlefield, he was called Gradivus, from gradus, a step, it being popularly believed by the Romans that he himself marched before them to battle, and acted as their invisible protector. As the presiding deity over agriculture, he was styled Silvanus, whilst in his character as guardian of the state, he bore the name of Quirinus. The priests of Mars were 12 in number, and were called Salai, or the dancers, from the fact that sacred dances in full armour formed an important item in their peculiar ceremonial. This religious order, the members of which were always chosen from the noblest families in Rome, was first instituted by Numa Pompilius, who entrusted to their special charge the ancellai, or sacred shields. It is said that one morning, when Numa was imploring the protection of Jupiter for the newly founded city of Rome, the god of heaven, as though in answer to his prayer, sent down an oblong brazen shield, and, as it fell at the feet of the king, a voice was heard announcing that on its preservation depended the future safety and prosperity of Rome. In order, therefore, to lessen the chances of this sacred treasure being abstracted, Numa caused 11 more to be made exactly like it, which were then given into the care of the Salii. The assistance and protection of the god of war was always solemnly invoked before the departure of a Roman army for the field of battle, and any reverses of fortune were invariably ascribed to his anger, which was accordingly propitiated by means of extraordinary sin offerings and prayers. In Rome, a field, called the Campus Martius, was dedicated to Mars. It was a large open space, in which armies were collected and reviewed, general assemblies of the people held, and the young nobility trained to martial exercises. The most celebrated and magnificent of the numerous temples built by the Romans in honour of this deity was the one erected by Augustus in the Forum, to commemorate the overthrow of the murderers of Caesar. Of all the existing statues of Mars, the most renowned is that in the Villa Ludovisi at Rome, in which he is represented as a powerful muscular man in the full vigour of youth. The attitude is that of thoughtful repose, but the short curly hair, dilated nostrils, and strongly marked features leave no doubt as to the force and turbulence of his character. At his feet the sculptor has placed the little god of love, who looks up all undaunted at the mighty war god, as though mischievously conscious that this unusually quiet mood is attributed to his influence. Religious festivals in honour of Mars were generally held in the month of March, but he had also a festival on the Ides of October, when chariot races took place, after which the right-hand horse of the team which adorned the victorious chariot was sacrificed to him. In ancient times, human sacrifices, more especially prisoners of war, were offered to him, but, at a later period, this cruel practice was discontinued. The attributes of this divinity are the helmet, shield, and spear. The animals consecrated to him were the wolf, horse, vulture, and woodpecker. Intimately associated with Mars in his character as god of war was a goddess called Bellona, who was evidently the female divinity of battle with one or other of the primitive nations of Italy, most probably the Sabines, and is usually seen accompanying Mars, whose war chariot she guides. Bellona appears on the battlefield, inspired with mad rage, cruelty, and the love of extermination. She is in full armour, her hair is dishevelled, and she bears a scourge in one hand and a lance in the other. A temple was erected to her on the Campus Martius. Before the entrance to this edifice stood a pillar, over which a spear was thrown when war was publicly declared. Nike, Victoria. Nike, the goddess of victory, was the daughter of the Titan's Pallas and of Styx, the presiding nymph of the river of that name in the lower world. In her status, Nike somewhat resembles Athena, but may easily be recognized by her large graceful wings and flowing drapery, which is negligently fastened on her right shoulder, and only partially conceals her lovely form. In her left hand she holds aloft a crown of laurel, and in the right a palm branch. In ancient sculpture Nike is usually represented in connection with colossal statues of Zeus or Pallas Athena, in which case she is life-sized, and stands on a ball held in the open palm of the deity she accompanies. Sometimes she is represented engaged in inscribing the victory of a conqueror on his shield, her right foot being slightly raised and placed on a ball. A celebrated temple was erected to this divinity on the Acropolis at Athens, which is still to be seen, and is in excellent preservation. Victoria. Under the name of Victoria, Night was highly honoured by the Romans, with whom the love of conquest was an all absorbing characteristic. There were several sanctuaries in Rome dedicated to her, the principal of which was on the Capitol, where it was the custom of generals, after success had attended their arms, to erect statues to the goddess in commemoration of their victories. The most magnificent of these statues was that raised by Augustus after the battle of Actium. A festival was celebrated in honour of Nike on the 12th of April.